When we talk about family, it's almost as if there's a universal idea of what a family should look like. It's this neat, polished image that we see on TV, in movies, and sometimes in social media posts. A family where everyone gets along, where every meal is home-cooked and filled with laughter, and where disagreements are rare, if they happen at all. For the longest time, I thought that's what family should be. I thought that my family should embody this picture-perfect vision, that we should never argue, that we should always support one another without fail, and that life should be smooth and easy, just like in the idealized family scenarios we often see. But that was before I really understood what family is. The truth is, family is messy. It's not always pretty, and it's rarely perfect. For most of us, family is a place where we learn the most about ourselves, for better or for worse. It's where we get to show up as our truest selves. Sometimes a little broken, a little flawed, and sometimes a lot messy. But that's what makes family real. That's what makes it worth fighting for. My ideal family image. I grew up with parents who had their own set of challenges. Financial struggles, work stress, their own emotional baggage. We weren't a family that spent hours discussing our feelings around the dinner table, and we didn't always have deep, meaningful conversations. In fact, at times we avoided talking about the tough stuff altogether. My siblings and I learned to get along by playing video games together, having inside jokes, and sharing a lot of quiet moments. I didn't realize it at the time, but these small interactions were just as important as the perfect family dinners or the big heart-to-heart talks. It wasn't until I became an adult that I began to see how imperfect my family really was, but also how perfect that imperfection was. For example, I remember the first time I truly noticed how my parents weren't perfect. It was when I was in high school, and I overheard a conversation between my mom and dad. They were arguing about something small, something about house chores, but I'd never heard them argue before. In my mind, parents were supposed to have it all figured out, right? They were supposed to know how to handle everything, how to be the calm in the storm. But here they were, having a heated conversation about something so trivial, and it made me feel a little uneasy. Was my family falling apart? That question stayed with me for a while. I thought about it a lot during my teenage years, when everything seemed to feel like a big, confusing mess. I wasn't always sure where I fit in the family dynamic. I had a sibling who was more outgoing than me, a parent who was more emotional, and another who kept their feelings hidden. And there I was, trying to navigate all of that, wondering if our family was really as normal as everyone else's. But what I realized over time is that what I considered imperfections were actually the things that made our family real. The occasional disagreements, the quiet moments when no one said much, the struggles we faced together. These weren't signs of failure. They were signs of our humanity. The truth about arguments, one of the most formative lessons I learned in my family was about arguments. I grew up thinking that conflict was something to be avoided. I thought that if you loved someone, you never fought. And if you did, it meant there was something wrong with your relationship. I imagined that healthy families never raised their voices, never disagreed about anything, and certainly never had a falling out. But the reality is, every family has arguments. Some of them are small, like who gets the last slice of pizza or who's responsible for taking out the trash. And others are bigger, like disagreements about values, lifestyle choices, or how to handle difficult family matters. The key thing I learned is that arguments aren't what make a family dysfunctional. How you handle those arguments is what truly matters. I'll never forget one big argument that happened when I was in my early 20s. It was a huge blowout between me and my dad. I was just beginning to understand the weight of adult responsibilities, and my dad had always been the one to encourage me to be independent, to push harder, to do more. I was frustrated with his expectations and angry that I wasn't where I thought I should be in life. We shouted at each other, and for a moment, I thought we might never speak again. But we did. The next day, my dad came into my room and sat down with me. We didn't immediately apologize. Instead, we talked. He shared his fears for me, and I shared my frustrations. It was the first time we really talked about our relationship in a deep way. I came to understand that he wasn't trying to control me. He was trying to protect me. What struck me about that conversation was how human it was. Families argue, they fight, they say things they don't mean. But the key is what happens after the argument. Do you forgive? Do you move forward? Do you choose to stay in each other's lives despite the mistakes? That argument didn't break my family. It strengthened us. It taught me that disagreements don't mean the end of a relationship. They can be a moment of growth, a chance to understand each other better, and an opportunity to reconnect. The messy middle. As I grew older, I started to see family for what it really is. Not a collection of perfect moments, but a collection of messy moments. The good, the bad, and the everything in between. There were many times in my life when I felt like I wasn't measuring up, either to my family's expectations or to my own expectations of what a perfect family dynamic should be. I expected too much from myself and from everyone around me. When things didn't go as planned, I felt like a failure. But over time, I realized that those messy, imperfect moments were often the most meaningful. They taught me resilience. They taught me patience. And they taught me to love deeply, not despite our flaws, but because of them. Take holidays, for example. Family gatherings are supposed to be about warmth, togetherness, and joy. But in my family, they were often chaotic. We'd try to make everything perfect, from the food to the decorations to the presents. But the more we tried to make things perfect, the more chaotic they became. At first, it frustrated me. I wanted everything to go smoothly. I wanted the holiday to be this flawless, magical experience. But what I began to see was that the imperfect holidays, the ones where we burned the turkey or ran out of batteries for the kids' toys, were the ones I remembered most fondly. They were the ones that made us laugh. They were the ones where we connected over our shared mistakes. And in those moments, I realized something. Perfect moments are fleeting, but imperfect ones, those are the moments that stay with you forever. Love. In the Imperfections. Over years, I've learned that family love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. It's about being there for each other, even when things get tough. It's about forgiving each other's mistakes and learning to embrace each other's flaws. One of the most important lessons I've learned is that you don't have to have it all together to be loved. You don't have to be perfect, and neither does anyone else in your family. In fact, it's the imperfections that make family so special. I learned to love my family not for their perfection, but for their authenticity. I love the way my mum still calls me every Sunday, even though she knows I'm busy. I love how my dad's eyes light up when he talks about his childhood, even though it wasn't easy. I love how my siblings and I can spend hours together, laughing over the dumbest things, even though we don't agree on everything. We've had our fair share of struggles, of misunderstandings, and of hurt feelings. But through it all, one thing has remained constant. Love. It's not always neat, it's not always pretty, but it's always there, waiting for us to embrace it. I used to think that family meant perfection, but now I know that it means something much more beautiful. Acceptance. Acceptance of each other's flaws, of the messiness of life, and of the fact that sometimes love is found in the moments that don't go as planned.